all, thank you very, very much for the work that you've done in giving us more history about our family, because it's obviously a magnificent project. I mean, I just hope that we can take away from it everything that you've got noted down. So I thought, you knew so much about Grandad, I thought I'd try and do something about the part perhaps you didn't know about, how the Acklands came to West Deeping. Mm-hmm. So mine's called The Road to West Deeping. So we start off 1886. Probably one of the most important things of that time was that Coca-Cola invented the world's first soft drink. But William Ebenezer Ackland, the Bill Ackland, William Ackland that you all know, was born to Ebenezer. Mm-hmm. Ebenezer was a cobbler and a bootmaker, and his wife Lizzie, and they lived in Quadring. Lizzie was from the Measures family, so again, quite a big family name in this area. She was a Spalding girl, and Ebenezer was a Quadring man through and through. So they set up home in Barham Lane, which actually now, a part of it is called Ackland Way. And they were there for most of their lives. So this is the house as it was. Not sure who the people are, but they were in one of the photo albums that we've got. And then if we go to the next one, that's it today. Mm-hmm. So still there, and next door is the little boot shop, cobbler shop, where Ebenezer used to work. So if anybody goes to Quadring, you can still find that. Mm-hmm. So William was the last of the 4 children. So there were 2 elder sisters, Rose and Annie, and there was an older brother called John Thomas. So he's quite important in our story for West Deeping. He was always known as Jack, so we'll see him play his part. Before starting school, obviously William showed great potential because he was awarded a Sunday school prize, a book, The Decorated Donkey, which I've got here on the table. So, and in Maggie, can you read that inscription? It says William Ackland, I think.
Oh, here we are. Yes. William Ackland, a reward from the PM, Primitive Methodist Sunday School, Quadring, September 1893.
Mm. So, all of the Ackland children, all 4 of the Ackland children, were educated in the local Quadring school, and we've got all of the books where it's inscribed, what date they went to school, whose sons, daughters they were, and the date they went to school. So we've got copies of all of those as well. So he started at the age of 7. Now, all of you who have studied these ledgers know that he had quite a nice script and he was pretty good at mathematics. So, obviously, Quadring School...
Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
Oh, sorry. Quadring School stood him well. By 1901, William was 15, and he'd found work as a carpentry apprentice in Surfleet. Now, a little background on why he didn't become a cobbler, like his dad and grandfather before him. I mentioned that his mum was a Measures girl. Well, Lizzie's family, she'd got a brother. Now, Maggie's going to find brother. So, okay. Brother wasn't from Tallington, or Uffington even. Here we go.
Sorry.
Lizzie's brother, Big Tom Measures, over on the right. And that's at one of his daughter's weddings. So Big Tom was making quite a name for himself in Peterborough as a foreman joiner. He got his son Tommy in the business, and Jack, Bill, William's big brother, was also in the business, working as the joiner carpenter. So I think, my guess is that they persuaded William that this was the path to follow. Forget doing shoes, let's stay in the carpentry business. So in the same year that William started his apprenticeship, Jack did some work on the church roof in Quadring. And there he met his wife-to-be, Dora. So Dora was teaching in the school at Quadring. So we move on to 1904. Big Tom sets up his own business. He's a builder in Peterborough, And he went on to actually do many of the big landmarks. The Sugar Corporation, the Inland Revenue Offices, the Museum Art Gallery Annex, the orthopaedic wing of the old Peterborough Hospital, and he also built the first council houses after World War II. So Big Tom was a big name in Peterborough. And I think that Bill and Jack were encouraged by Big Tom, because in 1905, the Ackland brothers were established. And we now have the document that shows that Jack, not Bill, Jack came to West Epping and he purchased the inventory. Now Maggie's done a fantastic background to all of that. And Mrs. Pratt sold the inventory of a wheelwright and carpenter's shop. But that inventory has been carried out in 1901. And it's 1905 that Jack comes along and buys it. So Maggie has got the whole definitive years there. What happened was in 1904, we've got a Mr. Fickers working. And, sorry, but if I go back a bit, Mr. Fickers is working, yes, as the wheelwright. And then, still to 1904, but then in 1905, that is bought by Jack. So, presumably, Jack and Bill are going to go into business together, encouraged by Big Tom. So this document was quite key to understanding the timeline of the Carpenters, the Wheelwrights and the Acklands in West Epping, because we hadn't got anything in West Epping before then. So Bill comes and moves in just up the road. Oh, is it down? 2931. He's living in 2931 now, opposite the cemetery.
Ruth.
Oh.
She's not here.
Oh, okay. And the shop, as you all know, better than John and I think, is just down here, yeah? Just one block down.
Behind the barn opposite the Red Lion.
Yeah.
So in the Robinsons' yard, basically. Opposite Pat's.
So, Mr. Dack, William Ackland, Charlie Wilson, and unknown. And I do wonder if that unknown is actually Uncle Jack, if it's Jack.
Okay.
Because he was tall, and if you look, he's got the same stature.
Yes, he has.
And the problem is that their side of the family have saved nothing. So when I've asked them for pictures and so on, they really have very, very little. But I suspect that might well be Jack. So, matters of the heart. Let's go back to Dora. Dora in Quadring. Jack is in love with Dora, the school teacher. And William is in love with Susan Smith from Uffington. Susan's young. She's just 15. And she soon gets pregnant. And she's sent to her childless brother Arthur and his wife Sue in Holbeach to give birth. Sue works on the land.
Here she is in a minute.
Oh, we missed that. Yeah, that was, yes, sorry.
You missed
No,
something.
go one more forward. Yeah, this is Sue at this end of the picture. And she works on the land. And something that really amazed me, Mummy once told me the story, because obviously Aunt Sue was quite important in their lives, and Aunt Sue had breast cancer, and she actually had a mastectomy all those years ago. So, I mean, I don't know what they used for anaesthetic or whatever then, but, you know, we think it's a bit of a today syndrome, but actually there was Aunt Sue working on the land in Holbeach, and some doctor had actually found that she'd got breast cancer. So she and her husband Arthur are looking after Hilda, the eldest of the 4 Ackland children, okay? And Susie, so Susan, i.e. William's wife, is known always as Susie. She goes to work in Spalding, she's in service. But William's keen. He's keen. He cycles from West Epping to Spalding quite often, and we know that he's done it because we've got the postcards. So this postcard was sent to Susan you'll see the writing on the reverse side. And this was the fire in Uffington in 1910. And of course she's an Uffington girl. So he's pedalled back from Spalding, and he's arrived home quite safe, but you can probably read better than me from a distance, can you? Perhaps you could see the view of the fire.
Arrived home quite
safe, but with a headwind. So he had a headwind all the way, sadly, from Spalding to West Deeping, so that wasn't a small ride.
Thought perhaps you would like to see a view of the fire.
It is one of George Edward's something. His wife and daughter are here. Kind regards, Bill. And that's sent to her at the address that she was in service. So he's seeing Sue, and then Jack and Dora. Jack is obviously looking to stay in Quadring because he has now proposed to Dora. They've married, and the report declares for their wedding that the school children who Dora taught spread flowers in front of the happy couple. The bride looked beautiful and the groom looked nervous. So Jack sets up in Quadring, and he's responsible for many local jobs, and I suspect his bookkeeping, had we got his books, would be as good as Grandad's. But this, there we are, that's why I think if you look at the stature, that's pretty similar to the guy in the workshop picture. So that's Jack. And if we go one foot, has he got oh, it's a dog, isn't it? Oh, it's a pig. It's a pig at the front, isn't it?
Everybody had a pig.
Yeah. And that is still in Quadring Church today. So that was one of Jack's pieces. So their family were quite interesting because, as I say, Dora was a school teacher. Their eldest daughter, also called Dora, she was obviously a very bright spark. She won a place at Homerton College, Cambridge, and went on to be an authority on the teaching of mathematics to school children. And actually, if you look on Amazon, you can still find her books on Amazon. So quite a person. Then little Jackie came to a very sad end. At the age of 4, he played with a medicine bottle that belonged to his mum. And it was eye medicine, and it contained belladonna. And he died instantly. So that was a big trauma. His younger brother, Spencer, was born with a lot of health issues. And apparently, Dora always felt that this was punishment to her for the fate that had befallen little Jackie. There were 2 other daughters, Marge, who went to work in Richmond Park, just outside Richmond Park, in the Star and Garter home as a nurse. And then Joan, whose name might be familiar to many of you, because she married Dennis Teal, and they set up Priory College in Stamford. So she became a teacher, and so yes, so she's another of the Ebenezer Ackland descendants. But back to William and Sue. So Aunt Sue and Arthur are more than happy to look after Hilda. And in the 1911 census, they declare her as Hilda Smith, probably hoping that they might get to keep her. But she's been Hilda Ackland from baptism onwards. But Aunt Sue is having very formal pictures taken, very mother and daughter pictures with Hilda. So we get to the marriage now of Susan and William. It's the relationship's strong, and in 1911 they marry in Uffington. And in fact, it was Uncle Arthur who actually witnessed the marriage, and Aunt Bet, who is the younger sister of Sue. So another of Sue's brothers writes a lot. We have a lot of the letters. So 3 of Sue's brothers went off, Susie rather than Sue. Susie's brothers went off to war, and they write a lot of letters, and we've got all of those letters. But one of them always refers to Grandad as Ackland. Give my best to Susie and Ackland. So never Bill or William, Ackland. And as soon as they're wed, Susie moves into 2931 King Street. And they stay there for the next 17 years with their 4 daughters. So Hilda comes back from Aunt Sue and Uncle Arthur. And then there's Anne, and I'm sure the names are familiar to lots of you. Anne, Mary, and then Jean, my mum, born in 1926. And it's, I think, really, William's established himself then as an integral part of the village life. He's the, as Maggie said before, he's the clerk to the parish meeting. Later that became the parish council. He's clerk to the West Deeping Burial Board. And in fact, I think you have the plan of the cemetery that Mary drew up. So Grandad obviously said, oh Mary, somebody's got to draw this. She was good at art, so Mary sat and did all of the drawing up of the cemetery. And then later on in World War II, he went on to be the special constable. And we've still got the medal, obviously. Now, one of my when I wrote this, I put one of my queries, which you may be able to answer, was why Grandad wasn't conscripted for World War I, because he was 27 years old, and all of his compatriots were going off to war. And there we have it on the board today that
It's
Maggie's
actually
found.
in that book over there, that flimsy one, 3 references to the fact that he has applied to the tribunal for exemption, as he was entitled to, but still had to go through the process of being heard.
Vetted and yeah.
Because his trade was deemed to be one essential to the war effort, so keeping the country going while the war was on, as a blacksmith, as a wheelwright, as a carpenter, all the other things he was doing.
Yeah, and burial, no doubt the burial thing. You couldn't get rid of the person who does the burials, could you? You know, in a village, they had to stay. So in 1928, Mum is 2 at this point, the family move up the road to Stoneleigh. And that's now Wheatsheaf Cottage. And today, John and I just stopped outside, and John said there used to be a pub opposite. Was that called the Wheatsheaf? Because we can't understand why you'd change it from Stoneleigh to Wheatsheaf.
There was a pub opposite, but that was called the Tennyson's Arms.
Right.
The Roth family lived there at the time they were there. Then it was knocked down in the 1940s. But there is evidence to say that that house had originally been an alehouse, not a full-blown pub selling spirits and so on, but as an alehouse, and it was known as the Wheatsheaf. I haven't got that evidence, but
Right.
another village historian has found it.
Right, okay.
So that was why, presumably, it was changed.
Right, we still like Stoneleigh better. So for Mummy, John and myself, all of our early memories centre around Stoneleigh. And with Grandad's shop, which you can see in the picture, not a single other building between there and the main road, but there's Grandad's shop in the building. And I can tell you to this day, if I ever smell sawdust, I am just transported back to Grandad's shop. And then the next one is, can you go forward a picture? Oh, so there's, yes, that's me. This little one here is me with Grandad, and down near the shop, I think. And the other 2 are my cousins, Malcolm and David. And we had the goat. The goat used to be around there as well. And then one more forward, please, Maggie.
The next one is your grandfather.
Here. And that's how we remember Grandad, sitting in his chair. And funnily enough, when I look at it, look at all the papers piled up, all of the stuff on his desk. It runs in the family. It doesn't with me. I'm a very neat and tidy person, but Mummy would have had, just like Grandad, she would have had things piled up high like that, and they were all important. You know, they were all bits of paper and so on. And of course, you know, as you can see from the amount of bit of paper we've got, it's probably quite a good job that they piled things up and didn't throw them away. So yes, that was Grandad in his chair, radio above him, grandfather clock behind him, and his desk at the side. So I'm now going to hand over to John, who's going to tell you a bit more about